Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. I don't know what Alex is doing, but welcome to another episode of Coast to Coast College Football Pregame Show, the national semifinal and after episode. Got a lot to talk about, a lot to break down. I know one coast is very happy after last night, but before we get to that, we get into everything. Another jam-packed show for everyone, as always. I got to introduce two guys that help me make this show incredible as it is. First and foremost, my Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling fantastic. I had a great night. Luckily, the voice it's starting to recover. A lot of yelling yesterday, but I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good.
I was a little bit worried to see what kind of shape the old kind of vocal cords were going to be in this morning. So. And then last but not least, obviously, our Mr. West Coast guy, Mr. Eye Black, Mr. Might Need a Haircut, not sure, Mr. Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
I'm good. And I don't think I need a haircut. I'm going to grow this out again just like last year with a ponytail and everything. So I'm just going to let this guy go a little bit. But no, this is a great time for football. I think this is probably the second best stretch of football behind that like 48-day stretch we had November, December, or October, November, where it was every day was football. We have 2 days of college football playoff. We got 3 days of NFL playoffs coming up. I know this isn't an NFL show, but just as a football fan, this 5-day section has been absolutely amazing college football games, and I'm expecting the same with NFL this week. So as a football fan, I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, this is if you're a football fan, this is kind of the holy grail weekend. Back-to-back semifinals on Thursday, Friday, 2 games today in the NFL, 3 tomorrow, and then 1 on Monday night. And then next weekend, you're going to go right back to 2 games on Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday night's going to be the national championship game. So it's if you're a football lover, this is the best stretch of the year. So outside of all that, we got to get into it because we have 2 great semifinals to recap. Obviously, we're going to start with the news. We're getting a little bit of portal talk because there's been one big name for sure, and there's still a couple out there. We'll get into that. We have to recap a crazy FCS championship game. If you didn't watch that, that was everything you wanted to be, and then some. That was a great football game. And then we're just going to get into some general discussion, some stuff that we've kind of touched on the last couple of weeks, but really haven't been able to delve into because of time-wise. So it's going to be a fun show. So with that being said, Alex, my man, take it away. Let's get going.
Shotgun, DC right, flip 90, dig, on the center, ready?
All right, welcome to Break the Huddle Weekly. First news is first, we're going to jump into the MWC, the Mountain West Conference, and they're going to be adding Northern Illinois University to the football ranks for football only in 2026 and beyond. What's your guys' initial reaction to this? I know Northern Illinois was one of the teams mentioned, but I was thinking they'd go a different route. How do you guys feel about Northern Illinois being added to the Mountain West?
Cottrell, this being a MAC situation, I will defer to you here, sir.
So we kind of had this discussion already earlier in the year when the idea was kind of being floated out there because I think it was Northern Illinois and Toledo, or it was one other MAC school that they were thinking about adding. I can't remember the one, but I remember Northern Illinois was one of them. And I'll be honest, I don't like it. I understand that they need to find a school, and going Northern Illinois, they're kind of, they're obviously they're a Midwest school there, but. For me, I just think that, you go football only and that's fine. But NIU is a team that, they're traveling to everywhere is close in the MAC. Like they're going to Toledo or Bowling Green and, all this stuff. And these guys because these games are so close, the MAC plays games on Tuesday. Like that's one of the cool things about the MAC. They're the only
Tuesdays,
conference,
baby.
the only show in town. They're playing on Tuesdays, and then these kids got to get up and go to class on Wednesday. But they're that close to each other, they can do that. So now these guys are going to have to go travel, and it's not across the country. Like I'd be being dramatic if I said that, but now they got to go to a Boise State, and they got to go, to a lot of these other schools. And I just don't think that's a smart idea there. I feel like geographically for these smaller conferences, they probably should have picked someone that was closer to them. If it's the Big Ten, and I get it. Northern Illinois has money. They're going to fly private and go and make it all work. But Oregon flying to Columbus on a Saturday and then getting back and having the kids in class on Monday, that's no big deal because they have the money to do that. I just think this is a move that really doesn't make sense to me geographically, especially considering it's a smaller school, smaller revenue. Like to me, it just doesn't seem like the perfect fit.
I'm going to agree with everything he just said. The one thing I actually like about the MAC at the Cottrell's point and that I respect is even being out in Michigan all the time, you know, I don't think people realize Michigan and Eastern Michigan are a town apart. Like you literally go the next exit over and you're in Ypsilanti where Eastern Michigan is. Geographically, the MAC has always stayed together. And that is one of the unique things about that conference, which I love. Like you look at the ACC, like, okay, yeah, like they're all on the coast, but like you're going from Massachusetts all the way down to the bottom of Florida. Like you look at the MAC on a map and it's Michigan, it's Illinois, Ohio, and then Kentucky and Indiana. Like it's all 5 states that touch each other, you know, and that is the one thing I thought was great about it. And all the schools have different rivalries with different sports. This seems like a money grab for Northern Illinois, and I'll be 100% honest. I don't think in the long run it helps them. Again, it's going to be a lot more expensive for them to play football next year, like Cottrell mentioned. I really, if we're being honest, I mean, other than this year with them beating Notre Dame, obviously, but like I feel like they're not even the highest profile football team in the MAC, if we're being honest.
Absolutely,
they're usually very good. They are one of the teams that are the programs that are consistently good every year. But again, I if I was the Mountain West, I would take somebody else before I took Northern Illinois. But I don't know. It just seems kind of short-sighted to me. And more importantly, I don't get it. There's no natural rivals, obviously. And I feel like the Mountain West could have picked somebody from somewhere else out there rather than cherry picking a team from the MAC that's more than halfway across the country. A lot of this just doesn't make sense unless they think Northern Illinois is going to be the first and they're going to go back and start taking more MAC schools. I don't know. Everything about this seems random to me, and for that reason, it's the reason I don't like it.
I mean, for me.
Here's why I almost like Cottrell. Here's why I do like this. All right, Northern Illinois in the last 15 years, they have 11 winning seasons, 11 bowl appearances, 5 conference championships. This year they beat Notre Dame. Northern Illinois has never been mentioned as much as it has this season. Maybe back in 2010 when they had that one running back who was going for the 2,000 yards. I can't remember what his name was. Cottrell, do you happen to remember who I'm talking about? But that was probably the last time Northern Illinois was really in the press like this. Even last night when we were watching, or 2 nights ago when we were watching the Notre Dame game, Northern Illinois was mentioned multiple times. This is the first college football playoff. The 2 teams that are up to get into the college football playoff was Boise State and UNLV. Whoever won that conference championship game was going to get into the college football playoff. Northern Illinois is taking advantage of their name being in the press right now. They're going to the more prestigious subdivision conference to give themselves a bigger opportunity to get into the college football playoff. So I think this is absolutely a fantastic move. I know it's a little bit about money. I know traveling is going to be crazy, but it's nothing compared to UCLA going to Rutgers or Oregon going out to or like Cal going out to Miami last year. So like the traveling isn't as bad as it may seem. I think Northern Illinois is doing the right thing and taking advantage of the positive press they have. And I think this is a great move.
So here's my pushback with that. I think that I think to your point, this is a great example year in terms of, you know, Boise was in the spotlight, UNLV was in the spotlight. But if you look at years past, we've seen teams in the MAC get national attention. Like I think about like a Western Michigan team when they had Corey Davis and they were an undefeated team and they went and actually played Georgia in a bowl game. Like if that was 2024, like we'd be talking about a Western Michigan team looking at the college football playoff. Like they were ranked, they were in the top 15, and you know they were getting that national attention. Hell, Corey Davis was a top 10 pick. So, and then I think about other years as well. I think about like some of the Kent Glory days, and they had Dree Archer. You know, they were a 10-win team back then. Toledo's had years where they've been 10-win teams, like when they had Kareem Hunt. Like I mean, I think you can garner the attention in the MAC. I think to your point about the, just kind of building off that and being with the Boise States and, the UNLVs, like I do hear that. On the flip side of that, though, like I'm looking at schools that could have made a ton more sense, just not only geographically, but just in terms of competitiveness. You got North Dakota State that is literally right there. I mean, you could bring them in. They've won like 10 FCS championships in the last 20 years. They're literally right there. They would love to come. And even if it is just football only, I think that would have been a great move for them. South Dakota State is also there, where they have two championships in the last 3 years.
Yeah. Take that whole group.
But weren't you guys saying that to be able to jump up like that, they had to spend a whole buttload of money to be able to jump up?
They're better than half the Mountain West teams now.
The Mountain West just had a team that played in the college football playoff. They got the money to do it.
No, right, but how much was it? Wasn't it like $1 million to like move up a division?
The Mountain West just got $10 million from Boise State making the playoff.
Right. But we're talking about North Dakota or South Dakota State, like moving.
Yeah,
like,
so they go join us. Control saying, "Hey, join us. We'll pay the fee for you to come up."
Yeah,
and then they start sharing revenue like they do for everything else in football.
Just like how other schools have when you see certain schools leaving their conferences. They didn't just get to leave for free. Like some schools were paying them, like some conferences were paying them, like paying their exit fees to join their conference. Like it's not like this is this unprecedented thing. And hell, if you didn't even want to go that big, you had a school that was just in the FBS not too long ago that Alex, you saw earlier this year. They had a pretty competitive game with you in Idaho. I mean, think about an Idaho. You want to put together a rivalry and start something. Give me Idaho versus Boise State every year. In-state rivalry. Let's make that something. Like I just feel like there was a lot of different things they could have done like in that area geographically that would have made sense, especially if you're thinking football only.
That area up there is unique in that Boise State is the really only Division I program up there. I mean, you have Wyoming and all of them up there, but you then have this insane pocket of FCS schools.
Montana State.
North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State. Honestly, you give all those programs money and a year or two, they're all very, very good FBS schools. That was the move for the Mountain West. Call North Dakota State. Like honestly, what else do they have to achieve in the FCS? Honestly, like they've won a gazillion of them. At some point, just go to Division I, and like you said, even for football only, go to Division I and enjoy the Mountain West, enjoy the budget, and see if you could compete. There's no way that you can't. They're still getting great kids. They're still sending kids to the league. Now you don't even have like the whole the kind of whole thing of being an FCS school hanging over you. But no, we're just Division I like everybody else. That program would be fine. That program would be more than fine. That program will never finish last in that conference ever. You saw what they did this. It's just that was the move. Go grab 2 or 3 of those schools, really bolster up, geographically and bolster up, the kind of bottom half of that conference. And the Mountain West becomes a really, really, really interesting conference every year. It does. Like we've seen over and over we've seen North Dakota State. We've seen these teams play Division I programs at the beginning of the year. And they compete, if not damn near win. Like they're more than capable of playing in Division I right now as they sit, let alone with a bigger budget and better recruiting.
And then I think about it too, is like I look at an example of a team that recently moved up and they've had incredible success. James Madison won an FCS championship and they said, you know what? Now's our time to move. We're getting the money. We're going up to the FBS level. And their first year they went, they only lost 1 game the entire season. They would have been eligible for the Sun Belt Championship in their first year if the rules were different there. And we're talking about a North Dakota State team or South Dakota State that have been perennial powerhouses at the FCS level. I just think that would have been a move that would have been more of a match made in heaven than getting NIU, who, Alex, to your point, they are consistently good. Like they do have good seasons, but NIU doesn't even win the MAC. So like it's not like they're going to go and, give Boise a run for their money every year or, anything like that, in my opinion.
Hey, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that I I think this is a great move to capitalize. I think NIU is going to ultimately make more money taking this deal. Like you said, it's always about money. I think there's obviously more money here.
Agreed.
And like I said, I like this. I think we're going to be going to more super conferences anyway. I think as the years go on, I think those, unfortunately, I hate to say this, I think conferences like the MAC are going to start to slowly disappear. Conferences like the AAC are going to slowly disappear, and those smaller schools are going to try to get that bigger money. That's what I see as the future of the college football conferences. I think it's going to be super conferences. I don't think these little guys are going to be little guys anymore, especially we've already seen how NIL can kind of level the playing field. Now getting these smaller schools, I'm using this as an example. This will never happen, but Kent State goes to the Big Ten. That's instantly more press for Kent State, instantly more notoriety for Kent State. They're going to get a lot more better players. NIL money is going to come in. And again, that was just an example. I think that those smaller conferences are going to be a thing of the past in 10 years.
But I'll tell you what, though, to that point, I think, one, Big Ten's got to at some point start to be selfish in the sense of we see what Notre Dame got $20 million. It's going to get $20 million for going to the college football playoff. Ohio State's going to get, I believe it's like $1.5 million because they have to share it with everybody else in the conference. And so, yes, you're making more money being in a bigger conference and having these big time schools. But the more teams you add, that's the more you have to share with. And if you bring in a team like Kent, for example, like just in this case here, they add nothing competitively for you. And they're just essentially taken away from the pot. They're not a draw. And again, I know it won't be Kent specifically, but just in general, these smaller schools, they bring nothing to the table for you in terms of a draw. You're not worried about people. I mean, you have enough people to be an organized conference there. And, for me, I think the MAC would be dumb to start to, let their teams leave because, one, the MAC is still really competitive. I know you're not thinking national championship, level there, but
it's a good conference,
outside of football, they can compete in everything. Like you have Akron is a perennial powerhouse in soccer. You look at basketball, Akron, Kent, Toledo, Buffalo. Those are going to be teams every year that can make the playoff and make the March Madness bracket and win a game or two in there and bring more revenue to their schools. So I mean, I just think that, as a smaller conference, you gotta stand together and make stuff work.
Alex, to your one point, I do agree that I do think conferences are going to still continue to get a little bit bigger and kind of, try to make super conferences. But that being said, it's even more of a reason if you're the Mountain West why you wouldn't want to get a head start and have those discussions with big programs like a North Dakota State or something like that and try to get them or at least start the talks to start to rebuild your program if that's really what you think is going to happen. Like if you really think somebody's going to come and cherry pick Boise at one point, like you're going to have the perennial like big name program in there that people recognize nationally that if they're going to compete for, the group of 5 spot every year. I don't think Boise State's going to leave because Boise State is literally sitting at, the top of that heap there, and it'd be silly for them to leave right now. But, to Cottrell's point, I don't think the Big Ten expands. I don't want to say ever again, but anywhere in the near future, the only thing I think they make an exception for there would be Notre Dame. That's the only one. It makes sense geographically. They have so much, so many natural rivalries within the Big Ten, plus the revenue they generate. That's the only team I think they would expand for right now. And I think a lot of these other teams that are desperate to try to get out, I just don't see. We already saw the fight with Florida State and Clemson potentially trying to, leave the ACC. It's a lot more complicated than everybody just being like, yeah, I'm going to go join a big conference. I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement anytime soon in any of those big ones. I think we're kind of status quo right now for a while. And I also think, actually, what? I'll wait till later to bring that up. I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to question I'm going to ask you guys later. So that's all I have for that.
Anything else you want to add in, Control, before we move on? No? All right. So next up, North Dakota State Bison. We just spent a little bit of time talking about them. 14-2 on the season. Played Montana State Bobcats in the FCS Championship, who was 15-0 on the season. They won 35-32. absolutely amazing game played down in Texas. It was a bit colder than I think the teams were expecting. I think it was like in like the 40s that night. So they expected a little bit of a warmer temperature game, but the game did not disappoint. Like I said, 35-32, North Dakota State Bison coming out on top. I watched this game. I know you guys watched this game. What's your initial reactions? I mean, it was fantastic to watch.
For me, my initial reaction was, damn, these are two good football teams. Like that was literally my initial reaction watching it. For it to come down to I will say this: if you watched it, North Dakota State had control of that game pretty much the entire time, but Montana State kept fighting every single opportunity that they had. North Dakota State, I don't know directly if it was like a wire-to-wire win for them technically, but I mean they were in the lead for a large majority of that game. So for it to come down to ultimately it was 35-32, and the last play of the game being a punt, and it North Dakota State was punting the ball back to Montana State, and ultimately the time ran out on that punt. That really just encompassed what that game honestly felt like. And for me, the other thing that I took away from that game is Bryce Lance. If you don't know the name, you should know it, because Bryce Lance had an incredible game versus Colorado during week 0 on the national TV or whatever there. He's also Trey Lance's little brother. But Bryce Lance, if he wants to, he can go be an FBS receiver and play in one of the Power 4 conferences and really put his name out there, because that kid is special. He had the go-ahead touchdown in the semifinals against South Dakota State. Had a good game against Montana State as well there. And, I think that kid is something that's really special. I think that's the name to really look out for as now that their season is over. If he wants to enter the portal, I 100% think he can go to a big-time Power 4 school and have an impact there.
Yeah. So listen, if you watch this game, North Dakota State jumped out early, kind of like Cottrell said. And they were never really pushed really until, later in the third quarter. Montana State finally closed that gap to where it was a one possession game. And they went back and forth. Again, if you're a football fan, even if you weren't familiar with any of the people on this team, it was an exciting game to watch. It was just good, high quality football. To kind of, piggyback on the discussion we just had, there's no way these teams couldn't play Division I football. There's none. There's no reason they couldn't. There's no reason they wouldn't compete, and there's no reason they wouldn't win games. Montana State 15-0, trying to go for the undefeated season. North Dakota State is kind of the perennial powerhouse that's always there. A little bit more of a pipeline in the NFL, like Cottrell said, with Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, people like that. Just a little too much, but got to give it to both quarterbacks. Cam Miller, Tommy Mallett for Montana State. They both had incredible games, both throwing and running the football up and down the field. Both went for over 200. Both 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Both ran for multiple touchdowns on the ground. Both went for over 100 yards on the ground. Just 2 guys just gunslinging it and going back and forth, saying, "Give me the ball back, give me the ball back, give me the ball back." It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was great. I wish this game would get a little bit more. Especially with what's happened, I'll say the last decade with NFL players playing in it and or transferring on and later being even more successful players at bigger schools. I know it's on ESPN. I just wish they would push it more. We're aware of it when it's on, but I don't even recall really seeing a commercial advertising it, being like, "Oh, FCS championship tonight." I wish they would push it more. I really do, because if you sat down for 3 hours to watch this game, you had a really good time. So great game. Like I said, it's pretty much what I expected from the get-go. Again, congrats to North Dakota State. I just don't, like I said, that I was in the Mountain West, I would have called North Dakota State first. I don't know what else they have to prove in the FCS. I really don't.
To your point of them pushing it more, how awesome would it be to have the FCS championship on Sunday and then have the, FBS championship that following Monday, or vice versa, whatever way you want to do it? Why not, put those guys together? And I get it, it's NFL, but maybe you push it a week. I think they did it smart, them playing the, week 18 and it was Monday. You know,
That's
there
why
was
they do
no other game in town there.
There's no NFL game, correct?
Why not, bump it back? I mean, the week 18 is showing you that it's an absolute disaster in the NFL because everyone's resting. It really doesn't matter. They really could have left that at 16 games and been square because week 18 has been a joke for the last 3 years. But I think that if they did a better job of putting the two together, or even like if you had game day there, like you send McAfee and all those guys there, like I think that would have been something to bring more attention to it as well. Because I do agree with you. I feel like it doesn't get the shine that it deserves.
I agree, and I look at it too. Like even if you like pushed it to like, not that you'd want to have it on a Wednesday, but even like you said, even if you're like, all right, cool. FCS championship games Wednesday, semifinal 1 is Thursday, semifinal 2 is Friday. Even if you did something like that, because then all the people would know, be like, okay, like, all right, we're 3 straight games of college football. I feel like even that would benefit it more. Not that you'd want to have a championship game on a Wednesday night, but that being said, I don't think it would matter because I feel like most people showing up to that game are fans of those teams anyway, and they're going to show up on a Wednesday regardless.
Alex, I saw you throw the comment up there. Do you agree with that? Because I think that's a great idea.
I'll put it back up there. But yeah, I do agree.
I'd be fine with that too. Yeah, I mean, see, that's tough. You can't make them play. Here's why it doesn't work. You're not going to make them play like they play that game in Frisco, Texas every year. So you're not going to make them play at like 3 o'clock local time on a Wednesday
local time on a Monday. On a Monday.
Oh, you're talking about for the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
4 o'clock. Yeah. That's 5 p.m. Eastern. I mean, the West Coast guys would be kind of screwed there, but I mean, their time's always weird. So
that's true. But here's like, when is the Super Bowl? Right? It's on a Sunday. When does the NFL play? On a Sunday. I wish that college football would take back Saturdays. I know that college football or NFL playoffs are going on, but I wish that they would play the Natty on a Saturday. Then they could put all the Natties same day, all divisions, start with the morning, midday, end with the granddaddy. That would be a perfect situation in my mind.
That's fire too. Not gonna lie.
It is. I hate that it's on a Monday night. I'll be honest. I hate it. I know why they do it, and especially why they're doing it now with their season being so longer for the kids and the extended rest and recoup time. But I would much rather have it be on a Saturday night.
It makes no sense that we watch college football on Saturdays all year just to, oh crap, I gotta get home from work to catch the second half of the national championship game. I mean the bowl season, it makes sense because those kids are getting an extra game in, they deserve those. Before the playoffs and for the championship, they should be on the Saturday set schedule. That's why everyone's playing the same day. We don't have situations like with Notre Dame getting less prep time for Penn State. Obviously, that was a tragedy. Caused that, but there's a lot of variables that would be gotten rid of if they just kept everything uniform, played on Saturdays.
Because there was definitely some good football. I mean, Mount Union,
D3 games are always incredible. They're always nuts.
Valdosta State and Ferris State at the D2 level. Ferris State dominated the game, but it was a lot of good football in that one. Obviously, the FCS championship was incredible. And then no matter what, everyone's going to watch the national championship from, FBS level. So, I mean, I think that's a great idea, Alex, and something you should really look into. And again, if you're worried about the NFL, shorten your season by literally one freaking game. That's all you got to do. Shorten it up one game.
I'll be honest. I'll even go backwards on this. I hate that the Super Bowl is on Sunday night. It should be on a Saturday night, but that's another discussion for another day.
No. I'm fine with it being on Sunday night. It should just be we should do it the Monday and the President's Day so that everybody can be off. I know not everybody recognizes President's Day, but a lot of people do. Give us a built-in day off afterwards.
I'm with it.
Yeah, if you went. You could even do one of them Friday night and then Sunday be like Division III at noon. And then run FCS. You'd run FCS at 4 o'clock then, and
your
then
prime time has to be. Yep.
National championship would be 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. That is
Solving
100% the way to do it.
coast to coast, solving world problems.
I'm gonna tweet this out and be like, "Yo, NCAA, you guys are idiots, but listen to this."
Yeah, because I don't know about you guys, and I know we're gonna get in the recap soon here, but Thursday night, like the Notre Dame and Penn State game, like it didn't feel like that was a national semifinal game, and I think it was because it was on Thursday.
It was. I'd rather them either push it Friday and Saturday, or just have them both play on Saturday, which is what I think they should do. Again, you get rid of the somebody's getting an extra day of rest, and again, you make it a full day of Saturday. Like if you, I know they don't want to go up against wild card, and that's exactly why they did it. But I feel like if you're going to watch college football, you're going to watch college football anyway. So,
And this past week, you only had the 2 games on Thursday. They had the 4:30 and then the night game. So, I mean, this past Saturday, you had the 4:30 game and then the night game. Like, if you want to be consistent with it, people are going to watch. Clearly, people like watching college football at noon. Give me. I would have been fine with even you go noon. Give me Friday night game and then the noon game. You're still the only show in town.
I just don't think they want a college football semifinal to kick off at noon.
I get it.
They make them big events. That's the problem. But at the same time, I mean, the Thursday night game at what, midnight? Like it's tough for a lot of people. I mean, you saw it the last like half hour. The game drew really good ratings, but I mean, there was a lot of trail off at the very end, and which was crazy because I thought for sure that game was going to go to overtime. But if you have games like that, like you're then talking about. I mean, we've all seen overtime games. Like you think they move quick, they don't. If that game goes to overtime, you're talking about a 12:30, 1 o'clock finish on the East Coast. Like, which again, if it's on a Friday night, it's no big deal. It's like, all right, cool, I'll go to bed at 1. That's a normal Friday night. Sleep in Saturday. Who cares? Everybody's got to go to work Friday. Like, I think there's definitely tweaking. I think there's handshake, deals that could be made between both the networks and the National Football League and NCAA to make it where it benefits both parties more. And again,
this? We just shortened the NCAA season by 1 game because Bill, I sent the graphic to the group the other day. I forgot what the exact number was, but there was only like 10 teams in all of FBS. No, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 teams. So 15 out of 134 FBS schools played. They were the only ones that didn't play an FCS school the entire year. Let's just get rid of that game. It's not. I mean, I get it. You're bringing revenue to these smaller schools, which is fine and dandy. But no, let's just get rid of it and let's make football make sense again.
Let's hold that point until later. So don't forget that because, like something else, I definitely want to circle back to that after we do recap. So Let's pump the brakes there because I agree with you. But there's been a lot of chatter about a lot of different things, and I want to discuss it with both you guys. So let's hold that there because that's definitely one of the points I want to bring up.
Fair enough.
Anything else about the subdivision levels we want to discuss before we jump into some not so great news?
No.
All right. Well, LSU, Kyron Lacey, he is currently has an arrest warrant out for his arrest for a fatal December 17th crash in Louisiana. Essentially what happened was he didn't crash into anybody, but he was operating his vehicle recklessly. He swerved his car into oncoming traffic, which made a gentleman swerve his car across the middle line and ultimately head-on collision into another vehicle, ultimately ending his life, unfortunately. He rest in peace. But Kyron Lacey is wanted in that he is admitted to driving that 2023 Dodge Charger, and he was driving recklessly and illegally passing other vehicles while driving at a high rate of speed, is what he's accused of. He's a fifth-year senior, had a great season this year, played 12 games, 58 catches for 866 yards, a big part of the LSU offense. Man, this is just another SEC issue with the vehicle. And Bill, I know exactly where you're going to go. Stop giving kids cars and NIL. But Bill,
no,
please,
not NIL, but listen, here's where this is tragic on multiple fronts. This is gonna be a lot like the Henry Ruggs situation. Someone died, and that is absolutely the most tragic part. A guy that was an active Marine, a guy that serves this country. That is awful. I don't even want to really get into how sad that is. This kid's life is over for how, I mean, he's obviously not going to play football. Like, talking about a kid, like you said, who already put up good numbers, a kid that in the foreseeable future had a very bright future in front of him going to the NFL and playing football. That's not going to happen. This kid's going to jail. If you read the report, I actually finally found it last night. It is terrible. It is terrible. There's no way he's going to walk away from this. When they do find him, he's going to jail. And he should. He killed someone. The NIL part of this is separate for me. You cannot have kids that are now getting paid, have hundreds, if thousands of dollars, if not millions in their bank account, driving around in cars that they are not responsible enough to own and drive. Sorry. The tragic one that happened in Georgia. Kid was driving a $110,000 Jeep Cherokee Trackhawk car with 600 horsepower. These kids are racing it. They're driving around. They think, listen, we're all young. We've all been young. We've all had that thing where I'm invincible. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm going to live forever. We've all been there. I'm not mistaking the kid for having that, that outlook. But when you do something like this and something goes wrong, you also have to pay the piper on the other side, and he's going to. I have no problem with the kids getting paid. I've said that numerous times. It's just I don't like the way it's structured. That's a different discussion for a different day. These kids being 18 and 19 should not be driving around hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cars that are high performance cars. It's a bad idea. It's America. You can't stop the kids from spending money on what they want to spend the money on. I get it, but I mean, how many instances do we have to go through now? Like we saw what happened in Georgia, and it continues to happen over and over. Somebody lost their life here or there. Somebody lost their life here now. It's just a bad idea. I know how I was when I was 20, 21, and I didn't have that type of car. And then I got a really good job where I could afford that type of car. And I promise you, I did stupid shit that I was probably lucky that I got away with. But looking back on it now, I would never do it now. And we're treating the kids more like adults, and that's fine, and I don't have a problem with that. But we're forgetting the fact that they're kids, and you're handing a 19-year-old kid a car that has 500 some horsepower, and he's going to go out and do stupid stuff like this. And again, like I said, to some point, it's his fault, but kids do stupid stuff. Like, people in charge, there has to be oversight to protect these kids from themselves. That's what I would say. And I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take until somebody from somewhere, some sanctioning body does something. Like, like I said, there's now, there's parents that are going to bury a Marine for no reason. And again, if you read the report, it's terrible. I mean, he went into oncoming traffic to pass 3 people because they weren't going fast enough for him, and caused a chain reaction, and guy pretty much died on the scene. And then he ran from it, and to my knowledge right now, they haven't found him yet. So
I will give you an update on that, Bill. They are in communications with him. His agent released this statement. We are aware of the allegations that have been made regarding Kyron Lacey, and we want to take the opportunity to address them. First and foremost, Kyron is fully cooperating with the authorities. We strongly believe that the facts will ultimately demonstrate the truth, but we respect the need for a full and thorough investigation. The rest is just saying, hey, we're not going to make any more comments at this time until the investigation concludes. But thank you for your thoughts and prayers. But essentially, they're saying once the actual information comes out, that they feel confident that they'll be fine. But it sounds like what you read, Bill, you're thinking the opposite.
I read the police report, and they apparently have a couple of dash cams and other security to back it up. So, yeah. I know, again, we've talked about this with other legal situations. It's always, and I firmly believe in innocent till proven guilty. He should have his day in court. And that statement is very much, legal agent to talk to. So, But again, we'll see. I mean, if he didn't, then he didn't, and that I mean, that's great for him as his family. But I don't think that's going to be the case here.
I think that when you look at the timeline of how this stuff happened there, I think it kind of tells you everything you need to know. Alex, you say that this happened on December 17th, right? Like This was from then. Well, it's January 11th now. So if, they weren't confident enough and, it was Kyron Lacey at this point, we wouldn't be hearing about it now. So I think it got out there because they know something, like one way or another, he was involved in this. And I don't think that after a month's investigation that, you don't just bring up this name just without something to back it up there. So I think, to Bill's point, I think it's a lot of, the agent just trying to clear things up and give you the political approach there. But as a whole, though, I mean, the situation is obviously very tragic when you have someone that loses their life for, something that is 100% not their fault. They're just doing probably a normal thing, going to get food, going home, and, you never expect something like that to happen when you're, abiding by the laws, driving in your lane and, just doing everyday things that, we all do on a day-to-day basis. On the flip side of it as well with, Kyron Lacey, this is a kid who I looked at as he was probably receiver 4 on my board. Like I thought he was probably going to be the 4th best receiver coming out in this class here. He's obviously coming from that LSU pipeline that's produced so many great receivers. And I mean, I thought he had a lot of good intangibles to him as a receiver. So, this is a kid who had been in the news before for a lot of, in the sports news, at least, for some of the penalties that he's had throughout the season, finger guns and, even the first game of the year, he had the shotgun, pumping the shotgun after the touchdown. Like this is that same kid. And, to Bill's point about, kids do stupid things. I mean, I agree 100%. And I think, even that on the field stuff, like I think that's just, showboating, character, whatever. Like I have no issue with that. As a coach, I'd be like, hey, you can't do that. Like we don't want to get these penalties, but I understand kids are going to be kids. They're doing what's cool, what's popular, what they see, whatever. However, with all of that said there, I think that there's low key and easy fix to this. I'm not saying you take away their cars. I'm not saying you take away their money. But when stuff like this happens, the NCAA should say, hey, LSU, you get 20 less scholarships this year. Like you go from 85 to 65 scholarships. If it happens again, you're going to lose another 20 on top of that the following year. So you're going to lose 45 scholarships for infractions like this. Because if that's the case, you're going to be more careful in who you recruit. When stuff like that happens, you're not going to just give them an immediate second chance and say, hey, we're cool on that. We've seen the Kirby Smart approach where everything has essentially been a slap on the wrist. And again, kids at this age aren't making the smartest decisions for them. And I don't want to say like, no one deserves a second chance because I don't believe that. However, I think just as like where we're headed right now, when you see this happening over and over and over again, like I just think about the whole, and this is different, but I just think about like, for example, the whole Aaron Hernandez thing at Florida. Like if he just had the documentary or whatever come out on Hulu, kind of, tracking his life. I mean, all the signs were there that this guy was a bad person. I mean, you get chance after chance after chance, and now 4 people are dead because of it. And he was able to play football and nothing happened to Florida from it all. Urban Meyer goes on to win multiple national championships and makes a lot of money and all this stuff. But there's never any punishment from that. And I feel like you could avoid that, because as soon as you start getting hit with those scholarship losses, then you start losing football games. Then you start losing revenue. Then people stop coming to the games. Then your merch isn't getting sold. Then your TV deals aren't as profitable as they once were. So I think the NCAA could easily step in here in this situation. They say, hey, you know what, LSU, I hate that it has to be you, because this is the first time you've really been in the news for something like this, but we got to set an example, starting somewhere. For 2026, you guys are only going to have 65 scholarships. And for every other school out there, if you have a situation that happens like this, you're going to lose 20 scholarships. Like, I think the NCAA could step in and you could see this fixed very quickly.
I love it. I love that proposal. I can't even tell you how much, and I'll tell you why. Because it puts the responsibility on the universities, which is where it should go. Again, these kids and their families are looking at the head coach and trusting their head coach and their coaching staff and everybody else to take care of these kids for 4 years. They're entrusting that, the coach is a human being. They're entrusting that when they're going to go on these campuses and do all this, they're going to be safe. It should follow universities. With all the money, you're telling me that, like, Georgia can't come up with a compliance person or an oversight guy to make sure these kids aren't being stupid? No, you can. And again, it drives it home. Like Cottrell said, it doesn't turn into, hey, you did this. All right, you can't practice tomorrow now, but you'll start Saturday. Like that's pretty much what's going on at Georgia. And it keeps happening, and it keeps happening. Like Cottrell said, you do this once, and all of a sudden you get docked 10 scholarships or something like that. There's going to be repercussions real quick. Maybe that's what it takes. And I like that proposal because, like I said, it puts the responsibility on the university to do the right thing, which is first and foremost to take care of these damn kids and make sure this doesn't happen, or at least try to prevent it as much as possible. Kids are still going to be kids. Kids are still going to make dumb mistakes. We get all that, but they're not trying now. There's no trying. Football season's over in LSU. These kids are showing up to off-season workouts and weightlifting and stuff when they have to, and if not, they're out doing stuff like this. They're just being normal students and being normal kids. It's got to stop. And again, this isn't somebody getting a speeding ticket, like, oh, damn, like he got caught doing 105 and a 45. No, someone died. In Georgia, someone died, and it's happened 20 times since then in Georgia. So again, we're not trying. Universities as a whole, NCAA, they're not trying. This isn't something that they tried and it's failing. It's like, okay, we got to switch gears and try something else. We're not trying at all right now. It's just Wild Wild West. Go do your thing. It can't be that anymore. Something's got to change.
I think what's bothering me the most is what you guys have kind of been going over what you guys think should happen. I've kind of been doing a little research on Kyron Lacey's days after that crash. So it was the 17th he had gotten a car crash late in the evening. On the 19th, so 2 days later, or actually a day and a half later, he declares for the draft and sits out and decides to sit out for the bowl game that same day. It almost feels like that decision may have been reflective of what happened. Like, let me just get out of here as quick as possible. Did LSU coaching staff know what happened? I mean, I highly doubt he's a 24-year-old kid. I highly doubt that as a 24-year-old, something like that happens, you're not telling somebody. There's no way you're keeping that shut. There's no way you're not telling your roommate. There's no way you're not going to your coach who you've trusted with your entire career. Like, dude, I just messed up. I'm just curious who else knew about this and who else tried to cover it up. And that's because, like I said, the way he acted afterwards was like, I got to sit out for this bowl game. I got to declare for the draft. Like, I got to get these decisions going. And it's just this whole time this investigation is going, and he knew 36 hours prior he caused an accident. And you sure damn know well, if you cause an accident, you're taking a look to see what happened, if someone was hurt, or, just as a human being, your curiosity is going to take over. So the fact that he was declaring for the draft 36 hours later, I mean, I don't know if he has really a lot of remorse for the situation. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see as more comes out, but that's where my head's at.
That's a two-parter thing for me. Yeah. And it's a really, really good point. I'll say this. If he did tell people, and like you said, there's already a lack of remorse, because it was kind of going away, and like, if they can't really figure this out, like, I'm not going to say anything. On.
Yeah,
that's going to kill him when he gets in front of a judge. Like he's going to pay for that at some point. Again, if he did all this. The first point, though, obviously he's going to turn himself in. That's what they're arranging right now. They're arranging when he's going to turn himself in and get questioned and everything else. I promise you this: if he goes in that questionnaire and they're like, "Hey, did you tell anybody?" and it comes out that, "Hey,
I told Brian Kelly.
I told Brian Kelly, or I told people on the staff," and it got to Brian Kelly, two things better happen immediately. A, Brian Kelly better be fired. And B, then at that point, LSU, to Cottrell's point, something has to happen to LSU. Like, again, this wasn't, hey, a fender bender and a hit and run, like someone died. Like, if people within that university knew about it and they didn't call the cops or they didn't call the authorities, LSU that football program should absolutely be punished, and it should happen before this upcoming season. That's a joke. So that's a great point. So I would be very curious to see the timeline and how all that played out. Because to your point, Alex, I find it hard to believe if he was on the fence about going and then this happens and he calls his agent, who, again, if his agent has his law degree, they're technically considered their lawyer too. Yep. So the lawyer won't be able to say anything. But that kid probably told him, like, hey, this is what just happened. The lawyer then gave him legal advice. For right or wrong, it is what it is. That's what lawyers do. Right. But then it's like you said, it's, hey, we're declaring for the draft. If that all happened out of nowhere because of this, I probably think even less of this kid than I did before, and B, LSU absolutely has to be punished for that. If the program knew about this and didn't at least call and make inquiries or something, then they're helping cover up a crime. Like they all got to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the timing of it is obviously awful in terms of, him declaring. I do think, like I said before, I mean, I had him as receiver 4 on, just from my standards and my list there. So, I mean, I think he would have declared regardless. So, like, I don't think that was the reason for him declaring. Him sitting out the ball game, like, that wasn't weird to me either because, I think he's a fringe first round, second round. Well, was a fringe first round, second round pick. So like that part doesn't strike me as strange, but to your point though, Alex, I do think that, I mean, it could very well go two different ways. It might have been one of those things where he's like, hey, I'm keeping this to myself. I'm taking it to the grave. Like hopefully no one ever knows that, I was involved in this. But then the other side of it could be, that same point that you made there where it's like, oh, I tell my agent, I tell my coach, these guys are adults. Maybe they can help me through this and let me know what to do. But yeah, I mean, if that is the case, 100% Brian Kelly would have to go. And I don't want to just see at that point, if they actually knew about it, I don't want to just see the scholarships gone. LSU should be facing a postseason ban.
Absolutely.
There shouldn't be bowl games. Like that should be at least a 3-year postseason ban for them. Let them play football. Kids have earned that right. But that you got to put a stop to it at some point. So I think that's a great point that I can't wait to see, the more facts that come out of who knew and who didn't.
Yeah, because to me, it just sounds like LSU is like, crap, this is bad. Let's get you unassociated with this university as fast as possible. Like that's how it rings in my ears. But I'm an overthinker when it comes to stuff like this. Anything else about Kyron Lacy or anything else we kind of want to talk about on this topic before we kind of jump over to a couple topics that actually aren't on the headlines here? Anything crazy? No. All right, and Catrilla, you wanted to talk about earlier. You had mentioned, what was it that you wanted to talk about?
Transfers?
Oh yes, Carson Beck. Yeah, transfers exactly. And I think the main transfer that we all want to talk about is Carson Beck. Yes, there's more than one, but let's start with Carson Beck because that's the big one. Obviously enters NFL draft. We're all talking about him not making a great decision. All the press heads were talking about that being a bad decision, saying his ceiling was Daniel Jones and his floor was Will Levis. If I saw that kind of comparison, I would instantly go back to college because that's not who I want to be at the pro level.
He's not better than either one of them.
Totally agree. The other thing is that if you look at it from a money standpoint, apparently the deal that I saw is that Miami's paying him $4.5 million to come be their quarterback. He was not going to be a first round pick this year, and Will Levis was a second round pick, and I think his base is at like $785 or $880. He's making less than $1 million per year, and that's as a high second round pick. So Carson Beck, to me, this seemed like a no brainer decision. I would have never I wouldn't touch Carson Beck with a 10-foot pole. I told you guys that during the season. I said it on here multiple times. I was like, he game by game, I don't understand how people have a first round grade on him. This is a guy who will get you fired. Like that is a coaching decision or a personnel decision that will get, GMs and coaches fired. If you take Carson Beck in the first round, I didn't think the talent was there. I thought he had a lot of room to still develop. The decision making wasn't there. And then I said it all the time on here as well. I didn't like the kid's face. So that was the big thing for me. So I mean, I think going to Miami, seeing what Cam Ward went through a very similar situation, declared for the draft, decided to come back. Now we're talking about Cam Ward being a potential number 1 pick. For Carson Beck, I can understand why that situation would be attractive. I don't think he's going to have the same fate in terms of that, but maybe he can go down there and develop a little bit. And I mean, I would want to be in Miami as a college kid.
I think the difference with the Cam Ward Beck thing is the jump that didn't happen for Beck. Like I think at the beginning of the year when we all had him on Heisman watch lists and all that stuff, I thought that was warranted based upon what he did last year. Assuming, like Cottrell said, we were going to see the jump and we were going to be able to see the development on the field. That did not happen this year. He was one of the reasons Georgia struggled this year, and they weren't really what Georgia we thought we were going to get. Cam Ward went from Washington State kind of not having anybody around him, still having a great year, and then went to Miami with a loaded offense. And once obviously he played better, and then obviously had talent around him. So once you finally saw that, you're like, all right, this is really what Cam Ward is. We didn't get that. We didn't get that with Beck. And now he's going to go to Miami. I don't think Miami's going to be as good next year as they were this year. And on top of that, I mean, listen, I know he took the money. I know obviously being in Miami would be cool as a college kid. We're leaving out the kind of obvious part here, which is obviously his girlfriend goes to Miami. His girlfriend is very popular. She's very famous. She has her own NIL deal. And apparently their relationship was an issue in the Georgia locker room. They're starting to hear stuff kind of squeak out there that he was accused of kind of, being checked out sometimes. And, he didn't like the razzing he got from his teammates about her and everything else. So apparently she was an issue in the locker room. They're both going to be on campus. I guess that's, what they both wanted. I could see how that works out well for them. I could also see how it works out poorly for them. I would love to play Carson Beck on a Saturday if they just broke up on a Wednesday. I mean, I would hope that if I was an ACC school, I would hope that would happen on the schedule of the week that we have them. But listen, to Cottrell's point, though, I mean, I don't blame the kid. He wasn't going to be a first-round draft pick. I don't think he's a day 2 draft pick. He's not getting $4.5 million from an NFL team. Take the money. Take the money, and if you're not done with it, it gives you something to fall back on and really start your life in a very, really positive position if it's not in the NFL. Can't blame the kid for that. So he's got a lot of work to do, though. So I hope he can go to Miami, help develop a little bit and be able to do that while still juggling school and obviously having a very high-profile girlfriend, which is not easy. And he has a punchable face. He just does. He's one of those guys that is on all those websites. Like, how did this happen? How did he get a Cavender twin? I don't understand. But hey, man, good for him. I think it's the right choice staying in school. He apparently kind of wore out his welcome and was kind of butting heads with Kirby Smart too at Georgia. So I don't think he had. I think him declaring was more proof positive that he didn't have the option to go back there, which is very telling in itself. And like you guys said, got his draft grade, and they were like, he's like, all right, we got to rethink this. And then, if Miami offered him 4.5, then can't turn it down, I guess. I don't blame the kid for taking the money. So I think football-wise, it was actually the right move for him. Everything else swirling around that I guess will kind of remain to be seen and see what happens.
Yeah, I think it was weird is, they had They had a great running back in the backfield. Obviously, a little bit of injuries, hampered him this year. But his regression is absolutely just insane. I mean, he dropped 8% in his completion percentage, 500 less yards. He had more touchdowns, but doubled his interception rate. I mean, he needs to change the scenery. Maybe obviously Mario Cristobal is not on my top 100 favorite coaches or anything, but maybe, Cam Ward had a great season. Maybe Carson Beck saw that and was like, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. Problem is Miami doesn't have the same talent next year. Just like Bill said earlier, they lost Restrepo. Restrepo is going to the NFL. Damian Martinez is going to the NFL. I mean, that's two huge pieces that were allowing Cam Ward, with the run action. With the play action and having that, that solid receiver in the Miami receiving core. I don't really know who they have as a receiver behind Restrepo.
I mean, listen, Matt, I know you don't like him, but he since he's gotten there, he's recruited very well. The problem is you're going to bring in I think the thinking is you bring in a veteran QB. They have a lot of talent there. It's just they're all inexperienced. They're all young kids. So it's going to be, can Carson Beck bring these kids along and, make it easier on them to, learn the game and be successful, having a guy that is consistently going to put the ball, where it's supposed to be, blah, 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 and just make it easier for the wide receivers and running backs. That's a big question mark. It's a big gamble. I mean, it's
a huge gamble because Carson Beck screams, Carson Beck doesn't scream like the kind of guy who's going to be like, come with me, guys. He's the kind of guy that goes, oh, well, I guess if you want to come along. Like, he's not going to push young kids. I don't see that from him. I don't think he has that leadership mentality. We saw it at Georgia. Like, I think the only person on Carson's brain is Carson.
I mean, I think the biggest thing with
I love his name, though. My son's name is Carson, so I love his name.
If I'm looking at it, if I'm a person in that Miami locker room, I would look at it like this. Carson, it was at Georgia, and they made the playoff. Obviously, he got hurt, but you're the quarterback of Georgia, and your situation is not going to get much better there. I mean, they brought in Zachariah Branch. They brought in Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. I don't think, if I'm someone in that Miami locker room, I'd be looking at it like Carson Beck's not coming here to win. If he wanted to win, he could have went back to Georgia and tried to, win a national championship there. He's coming to an inferior roster, and this is all selfish motivations for him. That's how I would view it. I would need to, I think Mario would have to have that conversation, with the entire locker room. We need to talk. Carson, what made you come to Miami? Because obviously, your girlfriend's here, which is fine. If that's why you want to come, you want to be closer to her and, spend more time with her. That's cool. But that's not for us. You're going to be our starting quarterback here. We want to win. Last year, we felt like we were good enough to be in the college football playoff. And, we ultimately didn't get there, but we want to win. So don't come here on your own selfish volition and, ruin that culture for us, especially to your point, Bill. If you were already having locker room issues at Georgia, we don't need none of that here because we're on the up and up. Cam Ward came and we were a bad loss away from being in the college football playoff or being in the ACC championship game. So I think that is the tough conversation that you're going to have because for Cam Ward, it made a ton of sense. You get the opportunity to go from Wazoo to Miami. You get to go to Wazoo was obviously in the Pac-2 where no eyes were on them. They had an incredible year this past year without Cam Ward, and we talked about him once on the entire show all season. And you get a chance to go to Miami and be in the big time power conference there and playing all the tough teams. For Carson Beck, I mean, you beat Texas while you were at Georgia. Georgia made the college football playoff, and they played that game without you. I'd argue that, if you were playing, you might have had a better shot to beat Notre Dame. I don't believe that, but, I'm sure there are a lot of people that do. So why wouldn't you go back to Georgia and play with Branch and play with Noah Thomas and, really compete for that national championship there? You just came to Miami because your girlfriend's here. How does that help me if I'm a football player from Miami? And I would need that to be answered in that locker room.
I think there's a lot that goes into this. Obviously, I don't know who Miami's backup quarterback was this year or who their projected starter was going to be before they get back. I would say with Cam Ward playing, the entire year this year. That nobody got any experience. So you're either going into camp with a
we
quarterback
saw him
battle.
The second half of their bowl game.
Yeah,
He was
that's true.
ferocious. He was like 4 for 12 for like 16 yards and 2 picks.
So there's that. So again, if it leaks out that, hey, we can go into the season next year with him already knowing like, hey, we're probably taking a step back and it's going to be a little bit of a frustrating season, or we could have got Carson back. That's also a tough discussion to have in the locker room. I get the girlfriend thing. I do. I totally get it. If he's like, hey, I'm here to win, improve my draft stock, and it's a benefit that my girlfriend goes here, I'm fine with that as long as that's, like Cottrell said, not the number one reason. I'll say this, and this was brought up I saw this online, and the more I thought about it, the more it kind of like, I think it's true. I never get the feel, Kirby Smart's a great coach, and I think they've had elite talent, and that's why they've been so successful. But that being said, like when things go wrong in that program like they did this year, I just never get the feel from like watching or even like reporting that they have some like great like cohesive locker room. I don't. Like I look at like I feel like if Oregon loses, they don't go in the locker room and start pointing fingers. Like I know that's not Michigan's culture or the mentality. It's definitely not at Ohio State. Other like Penn State, Alabama. Like I feel like it's not like that. Georgia, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's been what's going on the last 2 years or whatever, but I just get this feel of that program. It's a very like me first program, and like. Cool, if we're all out in the field and we're all winning and everything's great, it's great. But as soon as it starts dissolving, like it kind of has the last 2 years, it's problems here, it's problems here. Now Carson Beck's, again, I don't think they wanted him back next year. I don't. And I think that's crazy. I think that's telling, mainly to the point I feel most people feel like if he plays in that game, they probably beat Notre Dame. And for them just to be like, you know what, you can go. Like you can go. And we'll figure out something else. And that's after watching him play, knowing the other kid already transferred out. I mean, I'm sure they have a 5-star kid coming in. They always do. But for them to go into next year with that option A being what we just saw in the Sugar Bowl, or starting probably a true freshman or a sophomore, that's kind of crazy for Georgia. And when you have a 2-year starter sitting there, and you were just like, you know what, you can go. Like, we're good. Like, we got to turn the page here. So again, I think that's very telling. I think it's just I'm starting to get a very weird feel out of Georgia, and it's not something that's kind of on the upward trajectory right now. It's just not.
Control, was there another portal that I missed that you wanted to talk about?
Your boy,
speaking of Georgia,
Iowa gets a quarterback. South Dakota State, dude. The winningest quarterback in FCS history, Mark Gronowski, is leaving South Dakota State, and he's headed over to Iowa. I figured you'd want to have some talk about that, so I was like, we got to talk.
It's been such a crazy week at work, dude. Like, Iowa's not been on the brain this week. It's just been I only had room for Oregon up there and trash talking Ohio State. I didn't have room for Iowa. No, you're absolutely right. South Dakota State QB transferred to Iowa. We finally have a quarterback that can throw the ball. Let's finally have a quarterback that has wins under his belt, has had success. I think this could be the turning point for Iowa's offense. Last year they looked better. Obviously not night and day better, but they did show improvements. They have a great underclassman running back. Can't remember, his name is escaping me at the moment. That's coming back next year that I'm excited about. And having a quarterback that has been in playoff situations, has a lot of starts. I think he has like 48 starts under his belt, something crazy like that. Like the dude is experienced, and you know how I feel about experienced quarterbacks. I'm all for him. So let's go. I should wear my Iowa shirt today, but man, I just like that crazy week at work. I have not been looking to Iowa this week. But thanks for bringing it up, though, and reminding me, because that is something that I was excited about earlier this week in the group chat when it got announced.
I just think it's one of those things.
They'll be 8-4 next year. Congrats.
Mark Gronowski
First off, how dare you?
Mark Gronowski is 42-5.
It's called experience.
Quarterback.
So 47 starts.
Yeah, so he's at 47 starts. He's 42-5 in those starts, and he's got 2 national championships and a national semifinals appearance this year, where they were literally one play. They are Bryce Lance one-handed touchdown away from potentially going back to their 3rd straight national championship game. So Mark Gronowski's a really good player. You know, I got a friend that covers South Dakota State, so I'm into their football a lot more. Shout out to Tanner Castor out there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great pickup for them, and him coming over to the Big Ten. This is a kid who, from the FCS level, was thinking about, foregoing that extra year of eligibility that he had and going to the NFL draft. I mean, he's a legit NFL prospect there. So, I mean, to Bill's point, I still think they're going to be same old Iowa. They're going to go 8-4, 9-3. But I think it's a great talent for them to add. And, if you want to turn that corner, I think Mark Gronowski's the perfect guy to try and do that.
Let's see.
All right. We've done a lot of talking so far. I like it. I love it. But we got some games to recap, 2 big ones. We'll start with Thursday night's game. Penn State versus Notre Dame. As you can see, if you didn't watch the game, Notre Dame won and advanced 27-24. Really good football game. I would say it's kind of one of those tale of 2 halves thing. I thought Penn State was definitively the better football team in the first half, and it looked like they were the better team. Looked like not that they were going to go run away and hide, but they were kind of firmly in control of the game. Notre Dame goes in at halftime, makes some adjustments. Made a little bit of a better effort to get Jeremiah Love the ball, which we could talk about more in a second. I just don't understand it, but it's neither here nor there. And they just battled. They battled, got back in the game, actually took the lead. Then I thought Penn State might fall apart. Penn State goes right back down the field and scores to tie it. And then gets Notre Dame to punt, and then Drew Aller throws a ball that is going to haunt him for the rest of his life, probably. Notre Dame picks it off, pretty much already in field goal position. They get 1 first down to really kind of seal it. Kid kicks, what's essentially a walk-off field goal for Notre Dame. Notre Dame advances. Again, it's kind of the basis of what happened. We're going to, really get into, more detailed here, bring the guys in. But thoughts, reactions, overreactions, stuff you think teams should have done differently. Both of you guys, give it all to me.
Alex, I would love to hear from you.
Notre Dame is the worst. Notre Dame is the worst team to make the college football playoff in a long time. That's okay. And I picked Notre Dame in the draft beginning of the college football playoff. I was cheering for Notre Dame against Penn State for that reason. I also just, Riley Leonard. I just love the Riley Leonard story. I love that he went to Notre Dame. And I love the way that they're winning. I love that the offensive coordinator who was at LSU last year had a Jaden Daniels, who was absolutely a monster in the throwing game with his legs as well, comes to Notre Dame, have a completely 180 offensive strategy. We're pretty much there, run first, pass almost never. The Notre Dame season this year is full of ups and downs. I remember earlier in the season putting Notre Dame on a tombstone for our mountain. So, Notre Dame's season has been up, it's been down. And this game was honestly, to me, an example of what Notre Dame's season has been like. Start off the game tough, no points in the first quarter, both teams kind of figuring each other out, throwing haymakers, trying to see where they could have some success. Then Penn State jumped out to a 10-point lead. Then Riley Leonard got knocked out for a series. I was thinking to myself, dang, this game is over. But guess who Notre Dame brought in? Steve Angeli. You ever heard of him? I sure as hell haven't, but that's a name you're going to be familiar with for the next couple of seasons because that dude looked like an absolute stud. Coming in cold off the bench, probably had a couple throws to warm up, of course, but came in a 2-minute situation, drove down the field, got Notre Dame on the board going into halftime with that very important 3 points. And I think that ultimately switched the momentum from Penn State to Notre Dame. And then when they went into halftime, Marcus Freeman was able to make adjustments. That Penn State defense did not look like it made any adjustments. And Riley Leonard was able to actually pick apart that defense more with his arm than typical. Because like I said, Penn State outgained them on the ground, won the turnover battle and still found a way to lose. If you just if you didn't look at the score and looked at the box score, you would have said Penn State dominated this game, because Notre Dame, a run heavy offense, only averaged 2.8 yards per carry on this game, 42 carries for 116 yards. Like, that spells a loss to me in my brain when I look at a Notre Dame team that's solely a rushing offense. So I think this game was amazing. I love the finish was fantastic. What was it, 31 points in the fourth quarter, more than the entire game combined up to that point. I mean, that finish was absolutely insane. And then Drew Aller, man, he made a couple throws in this game. One in the first quarter that was picked off in the end zone that was defensive pass interference, but the ball he threw, that defender had no implication on that ball. It was the worst thrown ball I'd seen all day. And he threw 3 interceptions. 2 of them were called back on pass interference calls. So this was not Drew Aller's best game, and I think he showed why he's coming back for another year at Penn State, and I think I agree with him coming back.
So the big thing for me is that I don't even know I think he, after watching that game, I even told you guys in the group, I was like, yeah, buddy, it's probably best that you come back to school. And normally I don't say that after just having one bad game, but like for me, it's kind of been a trend with Drew Aller, and maybe it's because I see him, every year with me being an Ohio State fan. But I mean, it just seems like he just gets tight in these big games, and I think a part of it could be because of he feeds off of the energy from James Franklin. And for what it's worth here too, before I even go in on that point, James Franklin not the reason why they lost this football game. Franklin coached a good game here. He is not, at fault like he normally would be in the top 5 matchups that we're always talking about with him. But I just see it time and time again where Drew Aller he gets very conservative in these big time games. He only wants to throw underneath. He's never really looking downfield unless it's for Tyler Warren. And then he's trying to make the big play. And when he does look downfield, he's trying to make the big play when it's not there. And so I just think that, when you have those characteristics, you ultimately need to come back to school, because you're not ready for the NFL if that's the case for you. I think arm talent wise, I think Drew Aller could be a top 5 pick and be successful. But when you perform like that in the big games, I don't think it's fair, or I don't think an NFL team would be wise to take essentially a project when you could go back to school and learn from those mistakes there. Because in this game, we saw him miss some easy throws. The Singleton little out route that he had to the flat that ultimately should have gone for a touchdown. I mean, that's a throw Drew Aller makes in his sleep. Hell, I think all 3 of us on this show could have made that throw to him. I mean, he was wide open. It was to the flat, like a 5 or 6 yard throw. It was nothing crazy, and it was low, and it was behind him. And for a guy with the arm talent of Drew Aller, you really don't see that often. Alex, you talk about the 2 interceptions that ultimately got called back because of the defensive pass interference. They were bad decisions, and the one in the end zone that went to Tyler Warren, I understand why they called it. Letter of the law, it's 100% pass interference, but that had no outcome of what that play resulted in. Tyler Warren went up to jump, and you could talk about the defender pushing him back, and you didn't have a legit chance to make a play on the ball, which is 100% why I understood why they called it. But I don't think that had any implications at all about how that play turned out. It was going to be an interception either way. And so I said, even in the group chat yesterday, I was like, I would have liked they didn't call that there. I just think Drew Aller needs to win that one big game. And I think it's, beating SMU is cool. Getting 2 playoff wins is cool. Beating Boise, that's a good thing as well. But you need that one game, where you have you're the reason why they win in a big time game. And he hasn't had that yet. So I 100% understand why he's coming back to school. On the flip side of it, though, I feel like I've talked a lot about Penn State and they lost the football game. Notre Dame, once again, they do everything they need to do to win. They don't do anything special. They don't kill you with anything. Jeremiah Love was not 100%, but man, he gave you everything he absolutely had on that football field. And Riley Leonard didn't look great before the injury, came back, and he's like, you know what? This guy behind me looks like he was trying to Steve looks like he's trying to take my job. Let me make sure that doesn't happen. Let me make sure I put some points up on the board here and make sure we go win this football game. And I mean, that's what you want to see there. And you can talk about, Notre Dame being the worst team to make the college football final, Alex, all you want to. I look at it as like a team that every single week, every Saturday, every Friday, every Thursday, whenever they're playing football, they put their boots on, they strap them up, and they're ready to go. They don't care who's out there on the field. They're going to go out there and try and punch you in the mouth and, just wait for you to make that mistake so then they can pounce and capitalize on it. Drew out for that interception, and then that's exactly what they did. They didn't need much. They moved the ball a little bit down the field, put up the 3 points, and ultimately punched their ticket to the national championship game. So got to give Notre Dame all the credit in the world there. And just one last point I will make. We talked about Brian Kelly earlier with LSU. The reason why he left Notre Dame is because he said he wanted the resources to put together a national championship program. But guess what? Marcus Freeman has been there for 3 years, and each year they've gotten better and they've gone farther. And Brian Kelly's been at LSU. They haven't even sniffed the college football playoffs. So got to give all the credit in the world to Marcus Freeman. He was the guy that all the players wanted, and he's been exactly what that Notre Dame team has needed. So just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Yeah, so in regards to Marcus Freeman, I think we all said it at the time. He was the absolute right hire to keep him there. I'm sure we've all seen the video of, all the guys in the locker room and saying, the one coach announced saying, that Brian Kelly was definitely gone, but then Marcus Freeman comes in, and it's a really cool video. If you want to go look up and watch it. But I will say this in Brian Kelly's defense, and I obviously hate defending the man, but he was criminally underpaid at Notre Dame. He was making a little over what?
I said when. You get raises when you win.
I mean, he's the most winning coach in the history of that program. I mean, so again, that's saying something.
Guess what? If Marcus Freeman wins a national championship, they're going to give that man an extension, and he's going to get paid.
I don't disagree with you, but again, Brian Kelly was already the winning coach there, wanted an extension. He's making roughly how much do you think Marcus Freeman makes right now?
Oh, I have not a clue. No
idea. All right, let's put it this way. How much do you think he should make?
No, I mean, if the best coaches in college football get $7, $8, $9 million a year, I mean, Marcus should be getting at least 3, 4, 5.
Do you know what Brian Kelly was making his last year there?
No clue.
$1.2 million. Notre Dame doesn't like to pay their coaches. It's been a historic thing. The only reason I even know about it is because my one buddy is a huge Notre Dame fan, and I actually looked it up because when he told me, I was like, that can't be real. And then when I looked it up, it actually was. But notwithstanding all that stuff, again, Brian Kelly is just still a jerk.
Absolutely.
Back to the Drew Aller thing, though. I think you guys both made really good points. And for me, it was the first time that he looked kind of like the moment was too big for him. And that's crazy. A lot of people are like, all right, like Cottrell said, he already won 2 college football playoff games coming into this. Okay, that's fine. One was at home in his home stadium. He's not going to feel any nerves there. And they played a Boise State team, on the road where they had, obviously the majority of the crowd. And on top of that, Penn State was just a better football team. Boise State's good. Boise State was tough and hung in that game. They're just a better football team. Notre Dame was a team that was very equal to them. And listen, I made no bones about it, and I said it. What I said numerous times on both shows over and over. The winner of this football game was going to be the team's quarterback who played well when it mattered. Riley Leonard had a crap start to the game, played well down the stretch. Drew Aller went the other way. The longer that game went on, the worse he played. You saw how emotional he was after the game. I feel like he was a little bit rattled. I think he's got to toughen up a little bit. And again, I'm not making fun of him for being emotional or anything like that. I understand, the overwhelming pressure these kids are under. And again, I like Drew. I was one of the ones that was kind of on the fence. Like, I thought he should go. And then obviously after watching this game, I agree. I think he should come back. But I think it's one of those weird situations where I think losses are obviously always good teaching moments if you let them be. and they can make you better. This game and that throw should motivate him all off season long. I think you see a different Drew Aller next year. He'll also be a year older. I think he grows up a little bit more. I think it's good for Penn State. Here's also what I'll say, and again, I'm not patting my back on this. What was my biggest fear about Penn State this year? Them not being able to throw the football. They just played in a national semifinal, and they didn't have one completion to a wide receiver. That's insane. They scored 24 points, and again, for the majority of the game, were the better football team, and could have won the game still. They didn't have a completion to a wide receiver. Yeah. It's got to change. It's got to change. And again, that's not Drew's fault. It's a position group that we knew they were going to struggle with this year. I did anyway. That was one of my biggest fears with Penn State. As good as Drew could be, as good as we knew the running back tandem was going to be, what were they going to do? And mind you, that was before I wasn't even counting on Tyler Warren having the year he had. That kid just, I don't want to say he came out of nowhere, but to have 100 catches as a tight end in college is insane. You can't win a national championship and not have a receiver you can throw a football to. That's just crazy. On the flip side, again, I feel bad that we're talking about Penn State more than we're talking about Notre Dame, but Cottrell said it, man. They're just gritty. They put on their shoes and they go play. And they here's minus the two interceptions that Riley Leonard threw, which were both awful. They didn't make any other mistakes. They don't beat themselves, and again, this time of year that matters. That they are going to go out and we're not going to preview it too much, but they're going to play Ohio State next Monday, and they're going to make Ohio State beat them. If Ohio State wants to win the national championship, they're going to have to beat them. Notre Dame is not going to go out in the field and collapse. They're not. They're not flashy. They're not shiny. Minus their gold obnoxious helmets, but they are not. They're not going to go out and just hand the game to Ohio State. They're not. Jeremiah Love, I don't know how you only let that kid touch the ball 10 times.
He was injured. He's hurt.
Not healthy.
Everybody says that, but you watch him play.
Marcus Freeman said it in the pregame interview that he's going to go as much as he can go. He's in pain, but he's a baller. We're going to give him the ball every time he wants it.
Okay. The only contradictory thing that came out of that press conference was they asked Jeremiah Love if he was good to go, and he said, "I was fine. I wanted the ball."
Of course, he's going to say that. He's a baller.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, yeah. I would say that too. I have a torn rotator cuff, and I'm like, "Give me the ball so I can pitch this game." Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a baller. He's not sitting out a national semifinal.
It's different when you can't physically do something versus he went out and every time he touched the ball, he looked electric. Like, he didn't look slow. He didn't look hesitant. He looked
right. But I think that's because they limited his touches. They limited his touches. That's why he looked.
I think if you give him 25 carries, like that knee is going to start to.
I'm not saying it's got to be 25 carries and 10 receptions. It can't be one reception and 10 carries. I'll tell you this: if they put that game plan against Ohio State, they have no shot. The kid has to touch the ball. He is their best football player. And okay, but I mean, at the same point, you're not going to be like, I'll go ruin the kid, and if he doesn't play next year, like, it is what it is. Like, that's not the mindset either. So we can't have it both ways there.
Shit, that's 100% my mindset. He's going to die on the field. I'm going out on my sword. We were putting together whatever we can, bro. You would have said, and at that point though. But to that mentality though, you're losing the majority of the game to Penn State, and that's not your mentality there. Then, like, if we lose in a semifinal, it's okay. Like, no, it's got to be like, all right, you know what? If I'm going down, then I'm going down with giving my best player the ball to get us back in this game. In the second half, though, Riley Leonard got his shit together for the most part. I mean, obviously the interception was bad.
10 carries, bro. And I really don't want to hear the hurt thing either. When the whole thing was like, we're gonna get him to go as much as he can. He said he felt fine the whole game. He could have tucked the ball more. And they were like, you're not allowed to jump. And then the fourth quarter, what's he do? He jumps 6 feet over some dude's head.
You're right.
He doesn't look hurt.
You're 100% right there. I'm just saying, in the semis, and it sounds crazy. I know it's win or go home each time, but the semi is different from national champion. There is no game.
Bro, you can't tell me that. You can't tell me that they're just happy losing that game now.
I'm not saying they're happy losing it, but what I'm saying is if Jeremiah Love gets hurt in that game and they win, we all know they have no shot on Monday night against Ohio State. So I think you do, in situations, have to protect the player from himself. What I'm saying is there is no game after Monday night, and we all three of us know how hard it is to get to the national championship, especially now in the 12-team playoff.
Exactly.
This is my first time seeing Ohio State in the national championship since 2020, and then before that, it was 2014. So I've seen them twice in 10 years playing national championship games. So it's tough as hell to get there.
You said it. You got to do everything you can to freaking get there. You got to empty the tank and empty the clip to get there. If he gets there and he gets hurt on his 20th carry, I'll deal with it. Because what happens if he goes out in the game and his third carry, he gets hurt again in Ohio State? They're screwed either way.
True.
They're the same boat. They're in the same boat they are as if he takes 20 at Penn State and they win by 10 and he gets hurt in that game. They're in the same boat.
He had 10 carries and they won the football game is what I'm saying. Like, I think they managed that very well.
If they have 10 and Drew Aller doesn't throw that pass and they lose, then tell me what's one of the first three. What's the first three questions that comes out of that press conference?
No, they would have went. It would have went to overtime, and he would have got some more carries there.
That's not true. You don't know that. If Drew Aller doesn't throw that interception and they go down and kick a field goal, the game's over.
But it wasn't like they weren't scoring, though. That's the thing. Like Notre Dame.
My point is, if they never get the ball back and Penn State goes down, what do you think one of the first questions to ask Marcus Freeman is?
So
you just lost. Why did Jeremiah Love only touch the football 10 times? When he clearly, with anybody who had eyes, looked completely healthy.
I think that that Jeremiah Love has not been healthy literally the entire college football playoff. And again,
I think doing incredible things.
You're right. You're 100%.
So what are we talking about?
You're 100% right there. I think to Alex's point, and Alex, I would love for you to jump in here since you're on my side for once.
This is entertaining, though.
That sometimes you have to protect the players from themselves. If you have a knee injury, he told the coaching staff he wasn't going to hurt it.
I get what you're saying, but you can't tell me that and then say the next week, if I go out and ruin the kid to get a national championship, it's okay. You can't have that both ways.
He was okay with it. I'm sure if he went out and said, bro, I'd go die on the field for a national. There are so many players that'll go say that. I'm saying in the semis, you can't get away with that.
Bro,
for me,
goal is to get
Marcus Freeman's job is to protect these kids first and foremost.
Okay,
we always talk about their impression on the players, the athletes. If
your mentality can't be go ruin the kid in the championship game. Then
why can't it?
Because your goal is to protect the kid.
No,
I know my goal is to win a national championship, but I'm not going to let the kid go out and blow up his knee so he loses a whole year. You can't have it both ways.
If he's a national championship, I 100%.
No, then you're not protecting the kids. Then you're not protecting the kids.
But listen. I'm saying Jeremiah Love as a competitor, I'd imagine Jeremiah Love would trade a whole, like if he's lost for the year next year, if that meant he was a national champion this year, I guarantee he does it 10 times out of 10. Guarantee it.
But I guarantee you he would say the same thing about last night. If he blows his knee out in the third carry of the Ohio State game, they win it anyway.
I'm a national semifinal winner. No, that's not the same as winning a national championship. It's not the same.
And again, if he goes out in that game and gets hurt and they lose anyway, then what? Then I put my whole career back a year for what? To say that I made it to a championship game? It's the same mentality. Who cares? There's one winner and one loser at the end of the year. They were on the verge of not getting there to even have the shot. Like you said, in a situation where this is going to get harder and harder, I promise you, if we look 5 years from now, this probably ends up being the weakest playoff that there is.
Yo, guys, I don't get why we're even arguing about this. You know that Jeremiah Love's the most carries he's had the entire season in a game is 16. His average carries per game is 11, which is what he carried the ball for against Penn State. So they literally kept the same game plan they've had with him the entire year.
They've also had games where he hasn't played the entire second half because they were killing people. So again, if they were playing everybody down to the wire, I promise you his average per game would be the mid-20s.
NIU, the game they lost, 11 carries.
Correct. And you know what?
They lost that game, and they should have been giving him the ball more, but they didn't because that is how they run their offense. Riley Leonard is the primary back.
Go watch that press conference. Go watch that press conference. Because ESPN showed clips of it the other day. And guess what? The second question they asked Marcus Freeman was, Why are you giving the ball to Why aren't you giving the ball to Jeremiah Love more and running Riley Leonard so much?
My thing is this.
Second question.
If he comes out and says, I have this agreement with my coaching staff, I'm not hurdling players today. As soon as he does that, I'm like, well, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'm okay with it because you're providing a spark for us, but I'm like, what the hell are you doing now? Like, we had this agreement. I got to limit your touches. If you're going to go out and do that, I got to make sure you're healthy enough to go out and do that.
And it's fine. And then what did he do right after that?
You want to hurdle somebody else.
And then scored a touchdown to tie it.
That was a great
After getting hit, exactly. After getting by 4 people. He is their best goddamn football player on offense. Don't give me Riley Leonard. Don't give me anything.
We all can agree there.
My point is you can't risk if Drew Aller doesn't throw that football, we're probably sitting here talking about Notre Dame losing. And then you have to answer. My point is you have to answer the question then. You can't go into that press conference and go, we were limiting his touches because we didn't want him to get hurt. He's jumping over people. He's breaking 3 tackles and stretching out to score the touchdown, even tie the football game. Marcus, every time he had the ball, he was electric. He looked great. Why were you limiting his touches? And then we want to protect the kid. But if we would have won, next week I'll give him 25 carries. And if he blows out his freaking knee and we lose, it's okay if we lose the game. My point is you can't have it both ways. You either got to stick with it or don't. If Alex, that kid has more than 10 carries next week, it's bullshit.
Alex, can you have it both ways?
You can absolutely have it both ways. They did. They just did it. They just had it both ways.
No, you don't know that yet. You don't know that yet. They got to win next week.
Jeremiah Love can literally have 25 carries next week, and the season doesn't start until August. He's got 8 months to rehab. Against Penn State to
I just think it's
Ohio
wild
State,
that we're saying it's okay to blow
you got
kids
9 days.
This championship game.
No, it's not okay.
It's not okay. I'm just saying you literally you shoot every bullet in the chamber.
I feel like
you guys just said he's got 8.
I feel like you guys are arguing for one thing.
You just said he's got 8 months to rehab. It's okay. So again,
I'm saying you have 8. If I know I gotta go, I know I'm in the shootout, and I'm like, all right, I gotta get through these guys, but behind that door, there are more guys there. I'm saying I can't use every bullet in this shootout when I know there are more intruders behind this next door. If that next door, there is nothing else. If I shoot all those guys in there and I'm getting out, then
perfect. I'll tell you why. Because you know what? Sometimes the door opens. You want to die with bullets in your gun? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
No.
Like you said, you shoot all your bullets to make sure you get to the next door. That's the whole point. If somebody's breaking into my house, I'm not being like, you know what? I got to save bullets in case there's another guy in here, and then watch the guy come through the front door and shoot me. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's not strategic mentality.
You got to be strategic with your bullets. If I know I only got 10, and I know there are 8 guys here, I can't use 3 bullets on the same guy.
Exactly. But you got to shoot them all. You don't go.
I wish I could mute you.
You don't go. I know I got 6.
Ooh, I can mute you.
Alex, I will kick you off the show.
I'm not going to.
Me too, Bill. Then we'd be on the same team again.
That's right. Look, no hosts.
All I'm saying is this.
Justin Loud will be on the show in a heartbeat.
Notre Dame got to this point by being Notre Dame. They played the same game plan. Win by being yourself. Don't change your game plan. They have their identity. They're not trying to change that. And that's what they did. If you look at the numbers, they ran Jeremiah Love the same amount that they have ran him in other games that, yes, I get he sat out 4th quarters. That's great. But his consistent number is 11 carries per game across the entire season. That's what he got. Okay, and that touchdown that tied the game in the 4th quarter, he doesn't have that second push if he's 25 carries in. Because Penn State is stop it. You stop it. Penn State is allowing 2 point. Bill, I'll let you talk. Shut up. 2.6 yards per carry was what Penn State was allowing on the ground. Jeremiah Love wasn't going to have these. If he would carry the ball 25 times, he would have averaged 2 yards per carry. He wouldn't have had the legs to jump over guys late in the game. He wouldn't have had the legs to push that second attempt to get into the end zone. If they wouldn't have had him on a snap count, they wouldn't have won this game. Riley Leonard played it perfectly. I remember us talking about, wow, they are not playing to win. And then all of a sudden, Riley Leonard rolls out to the left to run it, and then whoop, little dump off. And then what did you say? That's how you win a game. That's how you don't coach scared. Like Notre Dame had the game plan. They played it to perfection. They kept Jeremiah Love healthy, and they won. I don't know why we're talking. If Notre Dame lost, I could see Bill being like, why did you not give the ball to your best guy? But guess what? They won. Their game plan
original point
worked.
was he's got to touch the ball in the championship game more. That was my original point.
And guess what?
I agree with that point.
He will.
We agree with that point.
I think he will.
What would have happened after the game if Notre Dame had lost and Jeremiah Love didn't get more carries? I guess we'll never know.
Never know.
Never know.
The home invasion metaphor was terrible, though. I'm breaking into your house because I know you just save bullets for no reason. Bringing people with me.
If you bring people with you, guess what? I'm gonna be very strategic with everything I got.
Fine.
I'm gonna have a bullet for every one of them.
All I know is some of my dudes are at least gonna get in the house. That's what I'm saying. We're gonna make it in. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, you can make it in. I don't care if you make it in, as long as you don't make it out.
That's true. But that being said,
real fast.
Yeah, it's all about
home defense is now.
Home defense now. we're gonna pop up on political iPod or podcast channels now.
iPods.
We still got a game to go too.
40?
What?
You said political.
Bro, listen, bro. Alex, I know you had an iPod, so that's why you're not laughing.
I did too.
See, so
I was a Zune kid. My parents didn't buy me no iPod.
Damn,
Zune is the shit too now.
I didn't get an Apple product till I was 22 years old and an adult.
Coast to Coast brought to you.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Oh, I clicked it. You click it, Control. I clicked it too.
Yeah,
there you go.
This segment brought to you by the NRA. So listen, we got another whole game to get to. Thank God we don't have to preview. We don't have to preview the championship game because we'll be out of time. But that'll be obviously the main focus next week because we'll be back on. The timing actually works for us for once. We'll be back on next Saturday before the Monday game. So we'll probably do a lot of fun stuff next week as well. Besides that, so
numbers, but like how we always do, breaking down
numbers. We do numbers. I think it'll be a good show to do. Probably our way too early top 10 for next year. We know a lot of stuff like that.
We got some stuff. We'll have some stuff.
We'll
have some stuff in the chamber. We'll have some stuff in the chamber. Exactly. There we go. Yeah, exactly.
I might be injured that day. My knees are killing me. Anyway, let's get to the Ohio State Texas
Alex,
game.
You ran out of bullets a couple weeks ago, so.
Man, I've been shooting blanks for a while. I've been shooting blanks since Penn State, since that Penn State game. I wasted. See, Bill, I wasted all my bullets on Penn State.
Exactly.
Like Notre Dame you wanted Notre Dame to do.
Hey, prime example.
Because you got to win the game. Exactly. You don't win that game, you're not undefeated in the number 1 seed. My point exactly.
And then we don't play Ohio State. I wish you would have lost. I wish you would have saved those bullets and lost. Then we'd be in the natty.
Yeah, anyway, then you had some shots left. Exactly. Alex, thank you for bringing that home.
You're welcome.
You blame all that for Ohio State not beating Michigan. That's why
boys. Happened. Just like Justin said, we still got a game in the chamber. All right,
we do. So let's switch gears here. Ohio State Texas was last night. Again, a very very good football game. In a weird way, I was even texting Alex like to the side because I didn't want to upset Cottrell, but that game really started to take on the feel of the Penn State Notre Dame game for me. I thought Ohio State started fast. They definitely looked like the better team. They were blowing Texas right off the line on both sides of the ball, and I was like, this might get ugly. And then Texas kind of finally got their legs underneath them, and I felt like the tide started to change a little bit. I was like, this is going to be the exact almost carbon copy of last night. I feel like Texas is going to win this game in the second half. And then, I hate to say it, we talked about it, though. Texas just goes through these lulls where they just can't do anything offensively. The play calling is beyond suspect. I feel like Ohio State at some point, though, got really weary and kind of got away from their game plan as well, which – I don't know who makes that decision, and I guess, and I was hoping Cottrell was going to be able to add insight. Apparently, he's not. But I don't understand when things just don't go their way for a drive or two. They get away with it. They get away from it, and then they play football that is not conducive to the talent they have on the field, and that's when they get in these tight games, and that's when they lose. TreVeyon Henderson was electric last night. Electric. And they just stopped giving him the football. I don't get it. Judkins was running around that field looking like he was trying to run everybody over. Like he looked like Derrick Henry. And they didn't give him the football. I don't get it. And Texas's only success defensively really became when Ohio State just was like, we're going to throw the football. We don't care. We're going to throw the football. And then Texas was like, okay, we're going to send 5 guys. We're going to get pressure in Will Howard's face, and we're going to drop everybody else, take Jeremiah Smith away from you, which they did, and make you beat us other places. And that's what let Texas back in the game. I don't understand it. I don't. You saw it against Michigan. You've seen it against Michigan other years. It's almost like they get too stubborn or they're too smart for themselves. I don't understand it. I just don't. They're too good. They have too much talent. At some point, you just got to line up and play football. TreVeyon Henderson looks like he's on a different level right now. That screenplay he broke, that's the fastest I've ever seen him run. And obviously, I've watched the kid a lot the last 4 years. He looked incredible last night.
Like he got
changed the game.
He did. And to my point, I'm going to go back to it. How are you not giving him the football more? I don't get it. And
I know earlier in the game he had that really ill-timed
which was so out of character for him.
Right, correct. Thank you for filling.
And that is,
he had very uncharacteristic.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Out of everybody on the offense, he is by far the last person I was expecting to do that. So when they called it and then showed the replay, I was like, "Whoa, what?" One, what the hell was said there? And two, I don't like they punished. You could tell if they punished him for it because the next 2 drives he wasn't really
not even in the game.
And I was like, is his mental okay? Like, what's going on there? Like, 'cause I know he wants to get it back.
It's weird to me because again, being me and Cottrell had this not funny thing, but like we first started the podcast, and I like when we first started Wire to Wire, we were obviously like that was the year that both Donovan enrolled at Michigan and TreVeyon enrolled at Ohio State, and we were like, it's gonna be so much fun to watch them the next 4 years because they were like the 1 and 2 running backs in the country. And it's funny that like, even though I don't like Ohio State, I've always kept an eye on him because of like those conversations we've had. And the kid's been a class act for 4 years. Donovan's the same way. They're both just really, really good kids, like really good kids. And I've seen multiple times, like, after Michigan games, he's one of the last people on the field, still shaking hands, congratulating everybody. He's had so many moments where he's shown how mature and how great of a kid he is. I was shocked when it happened. And it was even like Ryan Day's reaction to it kind of even cemented it even more for me. I feel if that's somebody else. Correct.
He's like, you okay?
He was so surprised. He's like, I'm not going to yell at him because I know I don't have to because it's so out of character for him. But he was like he said, he's like, that was stupid. But like, that's literally all he said. He walked away from him because it's so out of character for him. Like, I feel if it was somebody else, like he probably would have chewed him out, like took the headset off and everything. He just looked at him and was like, what are you doing? Like, and then walked away from him. But that being said, he obviously made up for it. Because I will tell you this, right after Texas scored to make it 7-7, I felt like all the momentum was on the Longhorn side. And then they run a simple screen pass. And again, not to make another gun reference, but he looked like he was shot out of the cannon. He split that one block, and that was it. I was like, he's gone. Like, and there was nobody else in the screen. But then again, like, how many carries did he have in the second half?
4 carries total.
We ran the ball. We ran the ball 15 times with our 2 running backs. 15 times the entire game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I want Cottrell to get
go against your tendencies.
It's his team. Yeah, but when you start going against Tennessee and it's not working, then you have to go back to what works. And again, to Judkins' point, he ran the ball tough as hell all night. Like tough as hell. He was hitting people when he was running with the football. He was blocking people. He had the one huge block on the other play. Like that kid came to play last night. It became very evident that Texas was going to play the Michigan defense. They were like, you could beat us running the ball, or throwing it somewhere else. We are not letting Jeremiah Smith beat us. And that's what they did. They took him away. But my problem with it is, you know what you did wrong against Michigan, because you've literally shown the last 3 weeks that you know how to correct it and play aggressive and get away from it. And then they fell right back into it. And it was mind-boggling to me.
And I think for me, the biggest thing is that you look at the Russian attack, and Travion is best when you get him out in space. Like, you get him out on the perimeter. When he was running the ball, they were trying to run him between the tackles, and clearly that wasn't working. Texas was getting penetration in the middle of the line there. And so I just thought you had opportunities to get Travion in space. If you want to run Quinshawn in between the tackles, I think that makes a ton of sense, because he's a power back. He wants to run through people. And so there was so many play calls in that game where I'm like, what are we doing here? We ran a 3rd and 1. It's 3rd and 1. We ran a toss play to Quinshawn Junkins, and I'm like, this is awful. Like, that's an awful play call. 1, if you want to run toss, you run it to Travion. 2, why are you running toss on 3rd and 1? You're making it harder for yourself. And apparently Sark saw that and said, hey, Ryan Day, hold my beer. I'll run a toss play on second and goal from the 1 yard line, and let everybody fly around and make plays. Like, for me, I would have saw that and said, hey, they ran toss with only 1 yard to go, and that was a horrible decision. My mind's already thinking that I don't want to do that, but I saw how bad it turned out for them. I'm not going to run the same thing there. So I was glad that toss actually turned out to be the second worst toss play that was called in the game there. But, I mean, outside of that, though, I mean, Bill, to your point, Texas came in and said, we're going to play a ton of zone coverage. And that's all they've been all season. I mean, they're one of they play zone probably the most in all of the FBS level. And so you knew you were going to get a lot of too high looks, and you knew you weren't going to be able to get that deep shot that you wanted, which at first it seemed like Will Howard understood that. That was the game plan coming in. You throw everything underneath. You get your guys out in space. You know, you get Travion on the edge. You run Quinshawn through the gaps there. You get Quinshawn blocking for Travion. It looked like everything was cohesive that first drive. Everything looked great. But then as you get later on, it's like it almost felt like Will Howard was starting to get bored. He's like, I'm tired of just dumping it off to the 5 yard person. I'm tired of dumping off to the 6 yard person here. I want to start to take more shots and see if we can open it up there. And that wasn't there. But then the other thing as well was that it was penalties. There were a ton of penalties that put Ohio State behind the sticks. And you could tell the play call, like on 2nd and 20, obviously you don't have a play for 2nd and 20 or play call for 3rd and 15 and things like that. But it just felt like, to me, after those things happened, they got off of their tendencies there. And that's really what made them start to abandon the run. But even in the second half, the penalties started to lighten up. You weren't getting behind the sticks as much. And even that drive that they ultimately end up scoring on to put them up 21-14, it was 8 straight pass plays before you got that Will Howard QB draw, and then Quinshawn running in for that touchdown there. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is you have to take what the defense gives you for one, but you also have to know your personnel. I think for me, I said it before the season. I'll say it again now, because I think it's clear as day now. Travion Henderson is the better running back between the two. Travion Henderson needs to be your running back 1. You need to get him more touches than you get Quinshawn Junkins. But with that said, if you want to run Quinshawn, stop trying to get him out on the perimeter. That's not who he is. Run him between the tackles. Get Travion on the outside. Will Howard, if they're running this blanket coverage where you got 2 safeties up top, take what the defense is giving you underneath. And for Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, call the game plan accordingly. Put your guys in a position to be successful. Because it's funny you bring up the Michigan game, because I was literally saying to myself, like, this is really starting to remind me of Michigan. The play calling is all over the place. And literally up until that QB draw, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I literally don't know what's going to happen. Texas wasn't even doing anything incredible on offense, but they were having success. I know they only had 14 points, but it felt like they were doing whatever they wanted to do chunk by chunk.
Yeah, I mean, the second half, it definitely felt that way. I mean, I know we've talked about it, but they were literally on the 1 yard line, to essentially take the lead in this game. And then, No, sorry, there you go. Yes, tie the game. Yeah, it was 21-14. You're right. But the play calling on that goal line drive was absolutely atrocious. I mean, they had to run up the middle, great play call. But then on the 1 yard line, I would hand it off again, going up the middle. Instead, they do the pitch play
4 times.
Yeah,
stopped me
exactly.
4 times. Congrats.
Exactly on the 1 yard line. Exactly. But then you pitch it out, lose 6 yards, and then they said they gave 3 straight looks to that left side. They did the pitch play. They rolled out Quinn Ewers twice to that left side in a row. And the second time they rolled him out, obviously Jack Sawyer sacked him, stripped the ball, ran it back for a touchdown. It's just the play calling is, I mean, there's two things that really made this game for me. One was a 75-yard receiving touchdown at the halftime that really eliminated Texas's built-up momentum. It really reminded me a lot of the Ashton Genty halftime run against UNLV in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. It's like 8 seconds left at halftime. Y'all know they're going to give him the ball, and he still found a way to score. Like, that was the momentum shift that play caused. Even Sarkisian when they interviewed him at halftime, they're like, hey, that was back and forth momentum change right now. What do you got to do now? Like, you could tell in his face, he just looked defeated. Like, we fought back, we were playing our asses off. We tied the game, and then one play, and we're back down 7 again. Like, he just looked defeated. The second half was, like I said, a very well contested half. Texas ultimately tying the game early in the third quarter. But this game obviously was a lot closer than the two score margin. Obviously, that strip sack return for a touchdown made it a 2-possession game. But Quinn Ewers, man, I mean, it's got to be Arch Manning's show next year. I don't know if Quinn Ewers goes pro. I don't know if he transfers. I don't know what he does. But that interception, that strip sack, can't have that. And then the interception to end the game, that was the most lollipopped pass. Like, he couldn't have handed to the defender any better than he threw it to him on that last play, on that last Texas offensive play. I'm at a loss of words. Like, I think we talked about this. Texas had the best chance of Notre Dame, Penn State, or Texas to beat Ohio State. Texas had the best shot.
I mean, I agree with that, and I think that the one thing though, I don't put too much on Quinn for the strip sack because it came off the blind side, and
he said that he felt him coming, and he just thought he could get it off in time before Jack got to him. Is what he said.
I mean, shit, he got to him very quickly. I mean, the right tackle gave him no resistance.
Misses him completely. That's what happens.
Yeah, so I mean, it happened so fast. Like, so I don't put that on him. The interception was bad. I'm not going to defend it, but you're down 2 scores. You're trying to make a play. So, like,
That's not a good play to make.
It's not. You're 100% right there. And he did miss some easier throws there. I still think Quinn should go pro. Like, I don't think him going to school. I think it's different from Aller. Like, him going back to school, I don't think he learns anything from that. I think he just needs more development, but from the NFL level, in a sense of you need to be more consistent with your play. I don't think that happens from coming back to school for another year. But just last thing, Bill, because I see you disagree with that to an extent there. But I mean, I got to give all the credit in the world to Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer is a kid who I've never liked Jack Sawyer. I don't know how when 2021, when he came in, he was number 1 player in the country, and I never saw that from watching his film. I'm like, he is a big athletic kid that got away with being stronger than everybody who he faced. And he just ran right through him or ran around him. Like, I didn't see the talent that everybody else had saw. I didn't see number 1 player in the country. And I thought honestly that it was a situation where Jack Sawyer had underperformed his entire career at Ohio State. But I will say this: his 4 best games was Missouri last year in the Cotton Bowl, and then these 3 playoff games. And for me, like, I look at it, Jack Sawyer's basically said, I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. He is there for the biggest moments every single time. So, Jack, I thought you'd underperformed your entire career here as a Buckeye, but the 4 biggest games of your career, you showed up in every single one of them. Hell, I'll even throw in the Michigan game as well. It was your senior year. You went through everything you could to beat Michigan. We didn't lose that game because of you. So Jack Sawyer, he's going to go down, and if they win national championship, next Monday, he's going to go down in the allure of as a Buckeye great in my book.
What's the spread opening up for that game? You said 7.5.
It's 9.5 now.
9.5. Dang, I mean, Notre Dame's defense deserves a little more credit than that, but dang, that's a crazy line.
It's It's a big number. I'll say this. I hate Jack Sawyer, and it's not for the reasons even Cottrell mentioned. I don't like the whole fake tough guy shit. That's not my thing. But I will give him credit. It's a hell of a play to strip sack somebody, pop up, have the ball bounce up, and then still go, 85 yards, whatever it was. So hell of a play. I will obviously tip my cap to him for that. Still 0-for-4 against Michigan, but it is what it is. Back to the Quinn Ewers thing, though. I've already seen on Twitter that he's getting a little bit of flack for, I think, his normal demeanor. I think he's just a very laid-back kid, and there's a lot of people, a lot of
Agreed.
Texas fans, mind you, that are, after he threw that interception at the end, stays walking off, looks like he doesn't give a shit, blah, blah, blah. I hate that whole thing. There's no way
have that than Jarrell or crying at a press conference. I'd rather have a quarterback that can keep his composure. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it sucks, but
I don't mind that either. I'm not gonna. That kid. You're walking into a locker room, and a lot of people are looking at you, and you're kind of the reason you lost. That's a hard moment to swallow as a 20-year-old kid.
I feel like they both had that situation, though. The last two possessions of Texas, Quinn Ewers turned the ball over. I mean, plain and simple.
Yeah, but like we just said, it wasn't his fault, and the second one really didn't matter. If we're being 100% honest, I don't see. I think when NFL scouts look at, they want to see consistency, and I think that is Quinn's biggest knock, and I think a lot of it is how he throws the ball sometimes. I think he needs to work on his mechanics. I'm not saying if he didn't go to the right situation and played at a big program next year, that wouldn't help him. Like, for instance, like I'll give you this, Cottrell. If they do their pre-scout thing and everything, and everybody comes back that he's not going in the first round, what would you do? Because I don't think he does.
I'd still go pro. Only reason being is that I think that if he goes to a big time program, they're not going to be in the business of developing him. They're going to be in the business of winning. So like if he goes to an Oregon or something like that, like Oregon has national championship hopes next year. If he comes back to Ohio State or something like that, national championship hopes. If he goes to Michigan, national championship hopes. They don't care about developing him in that situation. So I think by going to another school where you get development, I don't know if going and playing at an 8-4 school and getting that development is going to appeal to scouts either. Like going to a Syracuse or, a North Carolina or something like that. Like, I don't know if that'll appeal to scouts that you went down a level in competition, and yeah, you may look better, but how much better are you really? Because the competition is where it's at.
I don't think it's development per se, as in it's fine tuning. Like I don't. Like, you look at him last night, like he read, like, I don't think reading defenses and stuff like that, like, I don't think that's his issue. I think it's he gets lazy sometimes and just throws the ball sidearm all the time. I think his footwork stinks sometimes. I think if he went to Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, like wherever, I think they work on all that stuff. Like, I think it's little stuff like that I think he needs to clean up and fine tune. And again, if he's throwing the football out of the same arm slot all the time, I think you saw it last night. There was a couple throws that if he threw the ball normal, he can get the ball down. He threw it kind of sidearm, the ball kind of floated. He kind of missed a couple big chances for completions there. And I think that's the type of stuff that I think is going to hurt him. That's why I think these lists keep coming out, and all three of us collectively, I think he's better. Like, we're seeing Quinn Ewers come out of these lists, and it's like, 8th ranked quarterback, 7th ranked quarterback. I don't look at him that way. I look at his potential, and I think what we all see and what we think he can be. I think he's in the top 5, if not the top 3 or 4 for sure. But he's not getting evaluated there, and I think a lot of it is because of these little things. Like, I think that's the type of stuff that if he did come back and went to a big school, tighten that stuff up, won a couple college, won a bunch more games and made another run at national championship, I don't think that hurts him. I don't. And especially if they're going to give him, if that $6 million offer is really real, he's not making that next year. Like, if he's get drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round, he's going to a position, he's going to a team where they probably have a good starter already. So he's not even going to be in a spot to where he's probably really going to be able to go in and play next year.
But I think that's where you learn. That's my thing.
I get it, but if I don't disagree with you in that. But at the same time, if you're going to a situation where they have an established starter that's under contract for 3 or 4 years, like, do you want to go there knowing you're not playing? Like, I feel like that's how guys get buried, and we just never really hear from Quinn Ewers again. Like, I think he's better than that. I think he has potential to be better than that. So I don't know. Again, I think a lot of it will probably depend on what his draft grade is. I don't think he's going to get a first round grade. There's a lot of people already just saying, like, other than Cam Ward, they wouldn't take a quarterback in the first round. And I know a lot of people disagree with that, but the book on Shedeur Sanders is all over the place in regards to where he's going or where he should go. Cam is the only one that I think that's kind of bona fide to go in the first round. And I think there's a lot of people that have questions about him. I don't think outside of if those guys go in the first round, I think they're the only two going in the first round. So I just don't know if I'm leaving. Again, I think the program, depending on where he goes matters. Like you said, I'm not going to North Carolina to dilly-dally there for a year and go backwards. I agree with you on that. But if Ohio State is the team, or if Michigan is the team, or Oregon, whoever it is, if it's a big team like that has a legit chance to make a run next year, I don't know if I'm not taking the $6 million, kind of buckling down and really being like, I need to clean this shit up, and then focus for the next year's draft and go the first round. I don't know if that's not the better route for him.
I got one thing to say before we wrap this up. You threw out North Carolina. Did you throw out North Carolina just because you were throwing out a random team, or did you do that on purpose?
No, I kind of did it on purpose in the sense of, like, they're a team. Bill Belichick's there.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
We probably won't have high expectations for him.
That seems like the one spot that would be good for him if he were to stay in college. That seems like the best spot because you got a former NFL coach who knows how to develop, who coached the GOAT. Like, if I'm Quinn Ewers, North Carolina looks pretty damn enticing. I mean, there was talk earlier about Arch Manning going to North Carolina for the exact same reason. Arch Manning always said, hey, I'm not transferring. I love Texas. If Quinn does feel like he needs to develop, who better to develop than the guy who's got every tie to the NFL possible?
You're 100% right, which is why I threw that name out there. I'm just saying I don't know if going 8-4 or even a 9-3 at North Carolina really matters in terms of his development. Might be better, but I'm saying how scouts look at it. You won 8 games in the ACC or 9 games in the ACC in the weak ACC at that. I don't know if I want you. That's kind of where my thinking was. I think it's a damned if I do, damned if I don't kind of thing.
I'll say this. After doing what he just did, I think the motivation needs to be there. And I do agree with Cottrell with that. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's going to be hard for Quinn to go to North Carolina. And the coaching he's going to get there is going to be incredible for him. Like, Bill Belichick's going to tell him, like on film, A, B, C, D. Like, you want to go play in the pros? All this shit right here needs to stop. It needs to stop now. You need to fix it. He won't get better coaching anywhere else than he'll get at North Carolina. But B, I also think it lends him – I think he's going to get bored there. And I think that's where it gets tricky for Quinn because it's going to be like, all right, like, we're probably not making the playoff. Like, what am I doing here? Like, you know what I mean? And, like, that's where I think it gets a little tough for him if he went somewhere else for a team that you think is definitely making the college football playoff and he can make another run at this next year and maybe get a ring. So that's where I think it gets a little dicey for him. But ultimately, I think he declares. I don't think he's going to go in the first round. But that being said, I know Alex got to get out of here.
Justin, if you're going to the home show today, I'm working it. Salem Fairgrounds home show. I'm sitting there all day.
Home show. Go to the home show.
Go to the home show, Justin.
Any final remarks, gentlemen? Like I said, we're having a fun show next week, and then obviously the championship game preview. Me and Alex probably have to come up with a way to convince everybody that Notre Dame has a chance to win this game. I think they do.
I'm already prepping. It may get a bit crazy, but I'm prepping.
It's going to be hard for me to pick against who I picked in the preseason at this point, but we'll see what happens. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I got nothing, man. I'm excited for NFL today, and I'm excited to next weekend in the college football championship. I mean, this is exactly what we've been doing this whole season, the whole show for, and we're finally here. I'm excited, and we're finally at the top of the mountain.
We are.
Exactly.
So
next week we'll have a graphic for that. So
we will have everything ready for next week. So As always, thank you for joining in. Thank you for watching, downloading, subscribing, all that good stuff. And we will be back next Saturday for the big one. So everybody enjoy your weekends, enjoy the NFL playoffs, and have fun.